Councilor Baker. Councilor Siomo. Councilor Conley. Councilor Consalvo. Councilor Jackson. Councilor Lamartina. Councilor Linehan. Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Presley. Councilor Ross. And Councilor Yancey.
I've been informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. I'd ask all councilors and all guests to please rise, as I have the honor to introduce for Councilor Frank Baker, our city clerk, Maureen Feeney, who will deliver today's invocation. After Clerk Feeney delivers today's invocation, I'd ask all to remain standing as together we salute the flag. City Clerk Maureen Feeney.
Thank you, Mr. President. The ringing of a bell calls us to worship. The pounding of a drum calls us to war. The popping of a cork calls us to celebration. What is the call? What is the sound that calls us to hear one another? Listen, listen carefully. It is here in the silence. Listen deeply. The beating of our own hearts calls us to ourselves, calls us to be our true selves, calls us to be our best selves, calls us to be what we might become. Listen, there is another sound, the breath of our neighbor's call, outside ourselves. They call us to companions. They call us to be allies. They call us to be partners. Listen, we must heed the call of our own heart, where love and truth, caring and justice are born. Listen, we must heed the call of others to gather together for some great purpose, where passion and fidelity, compassion and equity are nourished. The hammering silence calls us together that we may do the work we cannot do alone. Let us heed the calls that come in the silence, that we may be well and do good in this world together. Amen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for your inspiring words. Please join us as we salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Been joined since roll call by Councilors Presley and Ross. Please indicate that, Madam Clerk. There are no corrections to be made. The minutes from the last meeting shall stand approved. Seeing and hearing no corrections or objections, the minutes are so approved. Madam Clerk, communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Docket number 1141, message and order providing for the surplus of the Chelsea Street Bridge, its approach roads, and any and all associated improvements, facilities and parcels, as well as the transfer of the same property and improvements to the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Mass DOT.
Docket 1141 will be assigned to the Committee on Economic Development and Planning.
Docket number 1142, message and order authorizing the Parks and Recreation Department to enter into a contract for a period of up to 7 years for the procurement of management services for the City of Boston's Common Frog Pond.
Docket 1142 will be assigned to the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services and Veterans Affairs.
Thank you. Docket number 1143, message and order for confirmation of the appointment of Michael P. Monahan as a member of the Boston Redevelopment Authority for a term expiring August 15, 2018.
Docket 1143 will be assigned to the Committee on Economic Development and Planning, reports of public officers and others.
Docket number 1144, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of June 5th, 2013.
Docket 1144 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1145, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of June 12, 2013.
Docket 1145 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1146, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of June 19, 2013.
Docket 1146 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1147, the constable bonds of the following have been duly approved by the collector treasurer, were received and approved.
Question comes on approval of the constable bonds under the usual terms and conditions. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Constable bonds have been approved under the usual terms and conditions. Matters recently heard for possible action.
Docket number 0988, message and order authorizing the Department of Neighborhood Development to apply for, accept, and expend federal FY13 community development block grants, home investment partnership programs, and housing opportunities for persons with AIDS and emergency solution grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD.
Chair recognizes Councilor Rob Consalvo on docket 0988.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would urge my colleagues to vote in favor of this appropriation today. This is a $25 million appropriation that's critical to the Department of Neighborhood Development and the success in running a number of programs around the city. It's broken up into several different areas, which I'll read briefly, and I hope you'll indulge me, Mr. President, given the size of the appropriation. The first major portion of it is a $16.8 million appropriation through the Community Development Block Grant Program, 57% which will be used for housing and homelessness prevention programs. Also used in the CDBG funding is funding to give our partners out in the communities in every neighborhood funding to deal with a variety of issues in the community, such as housing and homelessness, social services, funding for our Main Streets program, our commercial real estate development, our Partners with Nonprofits program, the management and disposition of city-owned foreclosed land and buildings, the maintaining of city-owned parcels, cutting the grass and building the fences around them, things of that nature, and the ability to dispose of those parcels. But the majority of the block grant, as I said, the CDBG money does go to housing and homelessness programs and to our community partners to help address that. $4.4 million in the Home Investment Partnership Initiative, otherwise known as the HOME Initiative. This is the money that is used to produce new affordable rental and home ownership opportunities, and also funding and operational support for our CDCs. And so this is where the leading the way money and a lot of the money that D&D uses to work on affordable housing in our city happens. Also at $2.1 million, the HOPWA funds, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. And this is mostly renewal grants to outside agencies that work on the construction or rehabilitation of housing for persons with AIDS, tenant-based rental assistance, non-medical support services, and technical assistance such as case management, substance abuse services, and things of that nature. And then the final piece is the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is targets populations such as the chronically homeless, individuals and families, families with children, veterans and their families, and unaccompanied youth. And this is the Emergency Solutions Grant that also does street outreach, emergency shelter, homelessness prevention, rapid reentry, and homelessness management information. We held a public hearing on Monday. I want to thank Councilor O'Malley and other councilors who attended and participated. Interestingly, the first three that we read all had an increase for the first time in a long time in funding, but the last piece, and probably one of the most important pieces, the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is funding to help decrease homelessness in our city, has actually seen a 23.3% decrease this year. And so D&D is working with the city and the budget office and everybody to try to address the issue of the HUD cutting dramatically that portion of the funding. But we did have, as I say, a public hearing on it. We learned a lot in the hearing in terms of where and why the money is coming in. Also, the final piece is that July 15th is when we will actually turn over the funding to all those folks who need it. So we're working on a bit of a deadline as well. that to actually put this money onto the streets and into the hands of those who need it. So I urge that we approve it today. Thank you.
Councilor Consalvo moves acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0988. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed,
Aye.
no. The ayes have it. Docket 0988 has passed.
Docket,
Motions, orders, and resolutions.
sorry, Mr. President. Docket 1148, Councilor Arroyo offered the following order for hearing exploring fossil fuel divestment by the City of Boston.
Chair recognizes Councilor Felix Arroyo on docket 1148.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, climate change is serious and it's a real global problem, one that we no longer have the luxury to call a threat. It's here. It's beyond a threat. It's happening. We've had umpteenth number of 100-degree days already in 2013. As many of us have spoken to about, but we now know that if Hurricane Sandy came at just a different hour in the day, we would have been flooded right here at City Hall. Addressing climate change addresses other issues that we all care about, like improving the way that we travel, accessibility to good public transportation, improving our health by improving the air we breathe, and by creating access to healthy foods, and creating jobs in green industries that produce renewable energies. Improving our environment, in fact, improves our quality of life. I know that firsthand as a lifelong asthmatic. That is very much an environment-related disease. The city has made some progress towards reducing our greenhouse gases that cause climate change. But I think to be very serious about it, then we have to put our money where our mouth is. I don't think as a city we should be investing in fossil fuel companies. Companies who profit by hurting our planet. This idea came to me from Mothers Committed for Climate Change. It's a group that meets in Jamaica Plain in the Jamaica Plain greenhouse. I know that my district colleague from Jamaica Plain knows them well. And they're committed to making the city and this world better for their children and grandchildren. Other cities have already begun this process. Seattle, San Francisco, and including our neighbors in Cambridge and in Providence. And so I filed this for us to look into what it would mean for the city of Boston to divest from fossil fuel companies. How is it possible? What would it look like? And how would we get there? I'm looking forward to the hearing. I'm happy and proud to be filing this hearing order and hope that my colleagues would join me in this process as we look towards how do we, in fact, put our money where our mouth is when we talk about our public health and our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Docket 1148 will be referred to the Committee on Environment and Human Rights. Docket personnel orders, excuse me.
Docket number 1149, Councilor Murphy for Councilor Arroyo offered the
Councilor Arroyo
following.
moves suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1149. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Docket 1149 has passed.
Docket number 1150, Councilor Murphy for Councilor
Councilor
Arroyo.
Arroyo moves suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1150. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Docket 1150 has passed.
Docket number 1151, Councilor Murphy for Councilor Consalvo.
Councilor
offered the
Consalvo
following.
moves suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1151. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Docket 1151 has passed. Clerk informs me there are 3 late file matters in her hands, which in absence of objection will be added to today's agenda. Seeing and hearing no objection, the matters are so added. The clerk will read the first addition to the agenda.
Dear Madam Clerk, I am writing to inform you of a change to the Boston City Council meeting schedule for July 10th, 2013. The meeting will begin at 2 p.m. instead of 12 o'clock noon. Best regards, Stephen J. Murphy, President
Matter
of
will be
Boston
placed
City
on
Council.
file. The second late file matter.
Dear President Murphy, please be advised that I will not be in attendance at the Boston City Council meeting on Wednesday, July 10th, 2013, as I will be attending the funeral mass for my mother-in-law, Elaine Adams. Please ask the city clerk to read this matter into the public record. Sincerely, Frank Baker, Boston City Council, District 3.
The second late file matter will be placed on file. The third late file matter, Madam Clerk.
In the City of Boston, resolution of City Councilor Michael P. Ross, whereas the City of Boston stands strongly.
Last.
stands strongly on the side of equality and support of the principles and equal treatment and equal access. Therefore, be it resolved that the Boston City Council urges Boston delegation of the Massachusetts Legislature and the leadership of the legislature to support the passage of this bill.
Chair recognizes City Councilor Mike Ross on the third late file matter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize to my colleagues for the late file. I was asked by advocates in the community to support pending legislation at the State House that is no stranger to this council and each of its members. That is legislation that will provide rights to our brothers and sisters from the transgender community, a community that's long been empowered and supported by this council, all of us, and our clerk. And this has yet to pass the State House. You'll recall there was a stand of support of this council in 2011, I think offered by my colleague, Councilor Arroyo, and on behalf of all of us, to support the legislation when it was initially filed up at the State House. That legislation did not pass. And yet, just today, the United States Senate made history. And for the first time, any body of Congress actually voted in committee form for rights to be bestowed upon transgender people for non-discrimination in the workplace just minutes ago. So we don't want our state Congress to lap the state of Massachusetts when it comes to extending rights to transgender people. And so this is a resolution to send up to the State House and to urge passage of House Bill 1589 and Senate Bill 643 that will provide rights to the state legislature, to the transgender community around public spaces. I would urge suspension of the rules and passage of the resolution today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Ross moves suspension of the rules and passage of the third late file matter, which is a resolution. All those in favor of suspension and passage signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. The resolution has been adopted. Anybody remove a matter from the green sheets may do so at this time. Clerk informs me there are 3 late file matters which, in absence of objection, will be added to today's consent agenda. Chair moves adoption of the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Consent agenda is adopted. I'd ask all councilors and all guests to please rise. Council prepares to adjourn the meeting of today, Wednesday, July 10th, the City Council will be adjourning in the memory of the next mentioned for Councilors O'Malley and the Chair, Frank Hannigan, Councilor Linehan, Marie Arrico, George Egan, Melissa Hardy, Paul Higgins, Elizabeth Lynch, and Teresa Spain. The Chair for Councilor Baker, Elaine Adams, Councilor Baker's mother-in-law. For Councilor Presley, Julius Friedman. For Councilor Yancey, Lawrence Michael Johnson. The cousin of Lynette Frazier from Councilor Yancey's staff, John J. Hughes, and John D.E. Nelson. For Councilor Conley, Philip Tarver Sr., Councilor Jackson J.D. Nelson. I ask a moment of silence for all those who were just mentioned. The chair moves that when the council adjourns, it does so in favor of the aforementioned and is scheduled to meet again on Wednesday, July 31st at 12 noon. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.